Good afternoon and welcome to our midday briefing. We have a few announcements for you. First, a short update to President von der Leyen's agenda. You have seen in the President's calendar that today she's participating in the meeting on peace and security for Ukraine, hosted by President Emmanuel Macron. Regarding council meetings, maintenant, veuillez noter qu'une réunion du Conseil environnement se tient aujourd'hui à Bruxelles. La vice-présidente exécutive Ribera et les commissaires Hoekstra et Roswell y représentent la Commission. Durant cette réunion, les ministres échangeront sur la dimension environnementale du pacte pour une industrie propre. Au cours du déjeuner, ils aborderont également la dimension environnementale de la vision pour l'agriculture et l'alimentation de la Commission. Les ministres discuteront ensuite des politiques environnementales à l'échelle mondiale en présence d'Inger Andersen, secrétaire générale adjointe des Nations Unies et directrice exécutive du Programme des Nations Unies pour l'environnement. La présidence et la Commission rendront ensuite compte de la seconde session de la conférence des parties à la Convention sur la diversité biologique, COP16, qui s'est tenue à Rome en février 2025. Puis, la ministre ukrainienne de la protection de l'environnement et des ressources naturelles, Svitlana Ryunchuk, informera les ministres de l'Union européenne des impacts environnementaux de l'agression russe contre l'Ukraine. Une conférence de presse avec la commissaire Oswald aura lieu à l'issue de la réunion prévue vers 17 h cet après-midi. Nous vous invitons donc, comme toujours, à réserver vos questions sur ces sujets pour cette conférence de presse. And lastly, I would like to welcome a group of visitors to our press room. I'm told that you are 15 content creators on an EU study visit. I hope you will enjoy your time in Brussels, that you will find lots of contents here, and we hope you have a nice time in Brussels in general. A very warm welcome. These are our announcements. We can now take your questions. Yes, sir.
Thank you very much, Nikola Radisic, N1 Television, Serbia, Bosnia, Croatia. For 2 days, we are waiting for the readout of the meeting that Ursula von der Leyen and Antonio Costa held with Mr. Aleksandar Vučić, President of Serbia. Can we get more details about that meeting, since the post-annex is pretty confusing rather than explanatory? And more detailed, what was the promise President of Serbia made regarding media freedoms? And the second question is, also, President of Serbia stated that European Union is going to announce Serbian lithium mining project as a strategic project of European Union in 7 to 8 days. He said that also after the meeting with Ursula von der Leyen and Antonio Costa. I'm not going to ask you to comment the comments. I know you're not doing it, but I just wanted to ask you, are you aware that more than 60% of Serbian citizens are against that project? There were huge demonstrations about it. And do you take the citizens and experts, NGOs, opinion when you're making that kind of decision? What project will be announced as a strategic project under the CRMA? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Guillaume.
Yes, so on the meeting with the President von der Leyen, President Kostas, and President Vučić, I would obviously recall the social media post that was published by the President after the meeting, when she said it was an important meeting with President Vučić, and that Serbia needs to deliver on EU reforms, in particular to take decisive steps towards media freedom, the fight against corruption, and electoral reforms, and Serbia's future lies in the EU. If you want to have more information, as you requested, on the meeting per se, what I can add is indeed President von der Leyen, President Costa, and President Vučić discussed the current situation in Serbia. As you know, like I have expressed a couple of times here on stage, we've been following closely the situation in Serbia and the unprecedented number of Serbian citizens peacefully demonstrating. And we need all stakeholders to find a peaceful and political solution to the current crisis.
Thank you.
And you had, sorry, follow up.
It was a question on the lithium mining project and the EU support to that project, yeah. And citizen participation.
Thank you.
So, specifically to this question on the mining project, so Serbia and the EU signed in July 2024 an MoU on a strategic partnership on sustainable raw materials, battery value chains, and electric vehicles. This partnership is expected to boost economic development, green digital transition, and create new job opportunities. It would also deepen Serbia's integration with the EU ahead of the accession, and it will also provide a stronger integration into the single market in line with the ambitions of the growth plan for the Western Balkans. On your questions regarding the announcement, I mean, the comments that were made after the meeting with the President, what I can say is indeed earlier this week, the Commission adopted for the first time a list of 48 strategic projects. My colleague Liak will give you more information on this, but this relates for projects within the EU. When it comes to the projects outside of the EU, a decision will be taken in the coming weeks. So at this stage, there's no decision. I cannot confirm whether this specific project will be part of this list or not. When it comes to sorry, then I don't remember your other questions if you had any.
Yeah, that was basically it. I just wanted to ask you if you can reply to the journalist's question about the readout from the meeting. As I said, I mean, 2 lines that you repeated from social networks are really not so explanatory, so we need more detailed readout if possible to get it. And maybe your colleague can help me about the way that things are deciding when the European Union is choosing the projects. So do you take into account the citizens' opinion and opinions of experts belonging to NGOs? Who do you consult when you make that kind of decision? Is it just the state, is it just the company and EU interests, or you're taking account, for example, the citizens which are protesting against that? As I said, I think it was last summer, the last survey was that more than 60% of Serbian citizens are against that project. That's why I'm asking. Thank you.
On the meeting, I'm afraid I cannot go beyond what I've just explained and the information I just provided. And on how the projects are selected, perhaps Leah wants to complement. Yeah, she wants to complement.
Okay. Thank you.
Good.
Thank you. Yes.
Thanks a lot for your question. Maybe just to say a couple of more words about the criteria that we use. So as for selecting the projects within the European Union and outside, of course, the first criterion is that this project strengthens our security of supply for strategic raw materials. And of course, it should show sufficient technical feasibility and be kind of available in a decent time frame. It needs to be mutually beneficial, both for the Union and for the country where it takes place. And it should comply with the same level of social and environmental sustainability. So I would not comment specifically on what you said, of course, what the citizen opinion is on this project, but just to say that the state which is hosting the project has to agree. So we, as the Commission, cannot select a project unless we have the okay from the third country where the project is located, which I think makes sense.
And I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, Leah, that we can also say that independent experts are closely involved in the assessment of
yes. And we also consult the member states. There is a board which is consulted.
Thank you. He's done this. Go ahead.
Thanks. Just on this criteria, I mean, you didn't mention the environmental criteria, and of course, projects selected under the Critical Raw Materials Act will be fast-tracked, which means that they will not be subject to the same evaluations as any other projects on an environmental basis. So I don't know if you could give a little bit more detail on the criteria specifically that you're using, and can you give any details on the experts that you mentioned are consulted? Are they civil society, or are they consultants in a professional capacity, like the consultancy firms that were in Brussels?
The experts, I would need to check more in detail, but I don't see. I mean, the fact that the project will benefit from this faster permitting doesn't mean that all the environmental and sustainability criteria would be thrown out of the window. So I think this is something that can coexist in parallel. Now, of course, I'm giving a more general framework for assessing these projects, and it's a bit difficult to go into the details when we are not talking about a specific project. And as I said, for the third country project, I think at this point in time we would not want to prejudge what we were going to decide in the coming weeks.
Thank you. You have a follow-up?
Just on that fast tracking, because presumably the time it normally takes is not. There is a reason for that, because to make the evaluation of the projects on an environmental basis. Now, they're fast-tracking it under these rules, which means that they will have to make an assessment within a certain time frame. But you're saying that will in no way undermine the environmental assessment. I mean, it doesn't. I don't know if you can give an additional clarification to that, because it doesn't add up completely, I think. And just on the I forgot my second question. Sorry.
No, so for example, when we speak about these faster permitting procedures, and I think first of all, these rules are national rules, so they are on a member state level. So I think it's also difficult to extrapolate that there is one general rule. But for example, the member states could use the fact that this is in public interest, that this project is of public interest, and that's why the permitting can go faster. But I would say when you are assessing whether something is of this interest, you would also take into account environmental concerns. So I don't see how it cancels, how one thing cancels out the other automatically.
One last follow-up. There's still other questions.
Sorry, remember my second question. It was just, have you made any environmental assessment at the EU level of these projects?
Of course, yes. Of the projects that we selected in the European Union, and the assessment for the third countries is ongoing.
Thank you. That's very clear. You had a question on this? Okay.
On Serbia in general.
Okay, one second. Maybe if is any further questions on this topic for Leah, raise your hand if this is the case. I see hands raised here in the... Ekrem, is it on this? And then we go back to you on... sorry.
Thank you. Can you hear me, please?
Yes, we do.
I'm a little bit confused. The Commission now is saying that there should be an independent environmental assessment or guarantees. Last year, the Serbian authorities were telling us, or the media in Belgrade, that it should be the Rio Tinto. But if you look at the meeting of Rio Tinto CEO and President Vučić, I think it was in October, November, with the local citizens and local experts on environmental issues, it was a disaster. Now, my question is, who exactly should do that environmental assessment? And once it's done, whether it's independent of the government of the Rio Tinto, should be included in the platform, which was supposed to be adopted by the Commission and the Serbian authorities in February. Now we are in the end of March. Why that platform has not been adopted? And can the Serbian projects in Loznica can be included in the list without that platform agreed by Commission and Serbia?
So I would really not have much to add. As I said, we are now speculating on the specific project. But what I can say, because you asked me more generally, of course, when we look at these projects, we also look at the environmental aspect. So when we do our selection, we take that into account.
All right. Thank you. I don't see any more questions for Lea on this, so we take your question. Another question on Serbia.
Yeah, it's more general on Serbia, and I'm aware that this might not be the right level for the question, but since interview opportunities with von der Leyen are quite limited, this is what I have to try. Don't you think that it's time to up the pressure a bit on the Vučić government in general? And isn't the Commission thinking about an expert mission at some time to assess the rule of law and media freedom situation in Serbia? I mean, you could do this. You did this in Macedonia 10 years ago. Thank you.
Thank you. Guillaume is coming back to the stand. Maybe just to say that I believe there are several opportunities which are given on a regular basis to ask questions to the President. So I would not agree with the start of your statement, but go ahead, Guillaume.
Yeah, as we said, I mean, we've been, well, sorry. We have been following the situation really closely. We've been in contact with our counterparts in Serbia, and we really do believe that it's a priority for us to support Serbia on its EU path and to advance on its path. We have consistently underlined that we need to see credible and tangible progress on key reforms to unlock the new stages of the accession process. As I said, in different levels of engagement with authorities. The EU accession process really requires an intensive effort by entire society. We believe that it's a national project that needs to be owned by everyone, the citizens, the authorities, civil society, everyone. The reform is needed on Serbia's EU path. We will reinforce the fight against corruption. We'll ensure the independence of the judiciary, accountability of institutions, transparent public procurement. It will help to promote media freedom and pluralism, and also it would improve the electoral conditions. So all of this together will improve. So the EU path, and if the reforms are made, then we are working to make sure that this can happen. And we do believe that this represents really this path will represent a European way for Serbia really to advance. This is something we have underlined and recalled many times in our enlargement reports as well. And we will continue to work with Serbia at the technical level, but also the political level.
Follow-up?
Yes, so if I'm hearing you correctly, I mean, the tool you're using is still the accession path. I think the question is rather whether the unprecedented protests in Belgrade and in Serbia all over have led to a change in how you deal with the government. Yes, and this is a yes or no question.
I would not really speculate on whether this has impacted or not our engagement. We have been engaged with the Serbian authorities for a very long time, and we continue to do so through the accession path, through obviously at also the highest level, like we had this week with the President. We also have engagement more at the technical level when we want to work on the growth facility, the growth plan for the Western Balkans. So obviously we're talking about here the EU accession path, but there's also in parallel different track to make sure that the Western Balkans can gradually integrate the EU single market. So it's another way also for us to have progress on this front. There are different reforms, as you know. I mean, there's a whole reform agenda with different reforms that needs to be implemented. So there are different tracks of work and discussions at different level. But I would not speculate further on whether the current political situation has changed. We have already a very structured channel of discussions.
Thank you. Is it on Serbia? Go ahead.
Yes, it's a follow-up. Stefan Isel, Table Media. I mean, there seems to be a movement in Serbia against this regime or this government in place. So my question would be, are you trying to reach out to this civic society movement, the students? Are you talking also to the opposition in Serbia? Because this is actually a complaint from them that you are not talking to them, but only to to the government and to President Vučić? Thank you.
Commissioner Kos meets with everyone. She has met also with the civil society organization a few weeks ago. There are also discussions at the political level. As I said, we engage at all different levels. But when it comes to the demonstrations, we do believe that it is for the authorities to have an inclusive dialogue with the protesters and the students, and we're not involved in this. This is a matter for us to have the discussion at the level.
Thank you. On this, go ahead.
Sorry, I'm not aware that there was any kind of meeting between students who are in focus of the demonstration and who are the core of that moment with the representatives of the European Commission. Can you help me with that? Did it happen? Are you consulting students? Do you have intention, if you didn't, to contact them, to talk to them, to see what's the problem and to address it?
I'm not saying there was a meeting with the students. Perhaps I did not explain myself very well. There was a meeting with Commissioner Kos a few weeks ago with civil society organizations. I can look back for the names. I don't recall them. Also, back then she tweeted about this meeting, so there's nothing secret here. It was public, and there are no plans here to engage precisely with students. We've made our position very clear from the start. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, you said inclusive dialogue should happen, but as I understand, it's the contrary what's happening. People are beaten up or treated as foreign agents, etc. So my question is, maybe we should reach out to this other side as well. Thank you.
What I can ask is, obviously, we have seen the tensions, and we call on all the stakeholders to refrain from escalating further any tensions between the different members of society. There's nothing else I can add at this stage. It is for a dialogue to take place at national level.
Reiterated, we need all stakeholders, as Guillaume said, to find a peaceful and political solution to the current situation. You had a question on this? No? On this? No? Let me see, because I think there's still a few hands raised. Ekrem, you raised your hand again. Is it on this?
Yes, it's about the same meeting, but on another topic. Let me quote first President Vučić when he talks about the associational dialogue between Kosovo and Serbia. The quote says, "I reiterated Serbia's stance that only constructive dialogue and compromising solution can contribute to the long-term peace and stability in the Western Balkans." My question is, did President Vučić explain to President of the Commission how will there be instability in the region if that association is not formed?
I'm afraid I don't have the details of your questions. There's nothing I can add at this stage. I explained all the topics that were addressed during this meeting. On your specific questions, I don't have information to share. Sorry.
All right, it's not on this, I think. No. Okay, let me see whether it's in the folks in the Interixio. Only leave your hand raised if it's a question on this. Fatlum, is it on this? And then we go to another topic.
Fatlum Yashari, Tugajini Television, Kosovo. Yes, it's in Serbia and Kosovo. Can I go ahead? Okay, Kosovo and Serbia, as a precondition to benefit from the growth plan, have to engage or must engage constructively in the normalization of their relations. It's in the mandate of the European External Action Service to assess the fulfillment of this precondition before the pre-financing. Is this assessment done? If yes, when it was done and submitted, is it positive for both Kosovo and Serbia? And I have a follow-up after this.
Indeed, in the procedure for the growth plan, there's a precondition when it comes to Serbia and Kosovo. that you explained, to engage in the constructive dialogue in the context of the relations. At this stage, I cannot tell you whether the condition has been fulfilled or not. This will be explained once a decision has been taken precisely on the pre-financing. We need to assess different conditions, and it's one of them. So we will communicate on the fulfillment of these preconditions when the assessment is made and when we have a decision on the pre-financing. So there's nothing I can say at this stage.
All right. Fatlum, you had a last question? Last follow-up question?
Yes. So there is no decision on pre-financing for Serbia and Kosovo yet. And the second part of the follow-up is there is a recommendation from the former High Representative Borrell to lift measures for Kosovo, against Kosovo from June last year, I think. Why Kosovo is still under measures, but we have a recommendation to lift the measures from 9 months now.
So indeed, I can confirm that at this stage there's no pre-financing for Serbia and Kosovo. There was pre-financing earlier this week and last week for North Macedonia and Albania, but the process is still ongoing for the two countries, for Kosovo and Serbia, as you said. Yeah, there's nothing I can add.
Thank you. I'm going to close the topic now. We have other questions. Mose also had a question.
Yes, thank you very much, Stefan. I would like to ask a question about the breaking news we heard yesterday that the United States have imposed 25% tariffs on imports of cars from the EU and the rest of the world. President von der Leyen issued immediately a statement yesterday evening where she regretted this announcement and said that the EU will make an assessment. I just would like to ask if the Commission was taken by surprise by this announcement, and whether it means that the EU itself now will speed up its own decision process on deciding on retaliatory countermeasures against the United States. Thank you.
Thank you, Mose. Olof.
Tusen tack för frågan, Mose. The answer to your question is not, the point is not whether we were surprised or not. The point is whether we are prepared or not. And here the answer remains yes. We are prepared to safeguard our economic interests, and if necessary, we will deliver a firm, proportionate, robust, and well-calibrated and timely response to any unfair and counterproductive measures from the US. I want to emphasise once again that our priority here is to find a negotiated solution, a solution that works for both sides, for the EU and US, a solution that strengthens our trade and economic relationship, which is by any distance the most valuable and important in the world. We want to build that relationship up, not tear it down, and we believe that the measures announced by the US go in completely the wrong direction.
Thank you. Do we have questions on tariffs for... Yes.
Thank you, David Price, Your Democracy and Schumann.info. The Commission announced that it's now going to encourage a lot of strategic raw materials. What the President Trump has done is put tariffs on his strategic raw materials, which are needed for defence. We have a lot of very different type of raw materials which are strategic, and I'm wondering what consideration has been given not to put tariffs on whiskey, American whiskey, but actually to protect new industries so that the defence of Europe and specifically the protection of the single market can be done. What considerations has been given to tariffs being raised on specifically the strategic raw materials inside the single market?
Thank you for your question, David. I'm not at this point going to go into speculation about which specific products we may or may not propose to our member states to levy countermeasures on. All I can repeat is that, first of all, we don't want to do this. We do not want to have to levy countermeasures on US imports into the EU. We believe this does no good to anyone. It does no good to us, and it's an act of economic self-harm by the United States. What we will do from this stage on is prepare ourselves for, as I mentioned, a proportionate, firm, well-calibrated, well-timed response to any future measures announced by the US, and the list of products, the final list of products upon which we propose to our member states to place countermeasures will be a well-selected one to create the maximum impact vis-à-vis the United States and to minimise the impact here on our European economy. And that is a choice that we will have to make in a very judicious and well-calibrated way.
Thanks, Olof.
Thank you, David Carretta, Radio Radicale. Olof, do you have an estimate on the value of export of cars and cars parts that will be under US tariff? Thank you.
Grazie, David. I don't have that to hand now, so with your kind permission, I'll come back to you on that in the afternoon. I'll have to check with our experts.
Thank you. For Olof? Yes.
Thank you, Ardi Stemening, NOS, Dutch public broadcaster. My question is on the timing of this all. When could we expect the answer of the European Union on the announced tariffs from yesterday, and also what could this mean for the delay on the previously announced counter tariffs on steel and aluminum?
Thanks for your question. It's a good question. Look, we have to be very strategic about our response here. And I repeat, we don't want to have to respond. But at the risk of sounding like my 3-year-old son, they started it. So when we're talking about so we have to be very clear about what has happened so far. The only thing that has formally been implemented by the US so far is their tariffs on steel and aluminium imports into the US. We've given our clear European response to that, which we have fine-tuned slightly to be even more effective. Now we have this announcement on cars. Next week we understand that a new suite of measures from the US, what they're calling their reciprocal tariffs, will come into force. We regret all of these, but we are preparing for all of these. I can't tell you exact timings for when our potential response to these still not implemented actions will come, but I can assure you that it will be timely, that it will be robust, that it will be well calibrated, and that it will achieve the intended impact.
Thank you. You had a question?
Angela Scugins from TVP World. It's on tariffs. I know that US President Donald Trump, the argument that he's litigating is that Europe is screwing over the US with value-added tax. And I know that you've explained this before, you've dispelled this belief, but there still seems to be some confusion about this. Can you please clarify why value-added tax is not a tariff and does not screw over US consumers? Thank you.
Thank you for your question, but with respect, I've answered this question before, and on this occasion I choose not to dignify it with the response again, because value-added tax is not a trade measure, it is not a tariff, it's something that's widely used across the world, and to suggest that it is some form of trade measure is nonsensical, and I'm not going to repeat what I've said from this podium already about that.
Thank you. It's Dorota from TVP. Actually, it's a follow-up to my Danish colleague. I would like to know what will happen on the 1st of April, because the currently suspended tariffs on the American goods, whiskey, bourbon, gins, they are suspended until the 31st of March. And originally you were planning that you will lift this suspension on the 1st of April. In what situation we will find in Europe on the 1st of April? There will be new tariffs on the US, or the new old tariffs on the US, or there will be nothing at all? Thank you.
Thank you for your question. So the answer is that nothing will happen on the 1st of April. Why is that? Because the Commission made a decision to align the timing of our two sets of countermeasures. So what was originally going to happen was that our countermeasures from 2018 and 2020, which were suspended, were going to be unsuspended. That would happen on the 1st of April. What we have done is align the timelines of that. So we've basically extended that suspension. So it's aligned with our second list of countermeasures, which we have been consulting with key stakeholders on. That consultation ended yesterday, and which we will soon use as the basis for proposing a list to our member states. The reason we aligned the timelines was to make it more efficient for us to strike the right balance of products first, taking into account the interests of EU producers, exporters, consumers. Also, it provides more time for negotiation with the Americans. And that, as I have mentioned, is our top priority. And finally, and this is the important point, should negotiations not lead to the kind of outcome we would prefer, then this approach, this recalibrated approach, maximises our ability to deliver the most firm and proportionate response possible to the American tariffs. Hope that's clear.
Peggy Corlin for Euronews. The announcement of the tariffs on cars comes just after the negotiations, the talks between Commissioner Šefčovič and his US counterparts. So I wanted to know whether cars were part of these talks and whether these tariffs means that the talks didn't go well.
Look, the priority from our side is to build relationships, to build trust, if we can, with the new US administration. And on that basis, when it comes to the point, or should it come to the point, where we actually are talking about making deals rather than simply talking about measures and countermeasures, that having built that, that personal relationship and that, let's say, trust relationship, that we can move those negotiations along swiftly. It is true that Commissioner Šefčovič's mission to Washington DC just now didn't deliver any negotiated outcome of the time we wanted, but it offered a very important opportunity for us to strengthen relationships with the new US administration, to put forward our argumentation again for why we believe tariffs and counter-tariffs are harmful and do no good to anyone, and why in our mutual interest we want to find win-win deals rather than these type of lose-lose measures and countermeasures. So contact between the European Union and the US administration continues, and we certainly hope that it will lead to the kind of results we're talking about rather than the opposite.
Thank you.
Thank you. You said the answer to the steel and aluminium tariffs have been aligned. I think the date is 13th of April, if I'm not mistaken. Is it possible that the retaliation to the new blanket tariffs and also the automobile tariffs will also come at this day, or is it obvious that this will take more time? And secondly, can you remind us what's the timing on the safeguard measures that will be taken or not be taken? When will this take more time, or will this also come in April? And third question, Trump also warned the European Union not to coordinate or build a team with other countries like Canada. In this respect, is there some coordination going on? Will the answer be coordinated, or will the EU act on herself?
Thank you.
Thank you for your questions. On the first one, I can't talk about timelines concerning future measures because we don't know what those future measures are. We have, let's say, some hints from the US administration about what might be coming, but we don't know in any detail what they are. So in order for us to frame the specific contents of our response and the timing of our response, we first need to know what we're dealing with. We don't at this point know what we're dealing with in that respect. I didn't understand your second question. What safeguards are you referring to? You might come back to me on that. And I'll answer your third question as well. Of course we are talking to global allies and partners around the world about the impact of these measures, because we believe that these measures are going to have a harmful impact not just on the EU and the US, but on the global economy. So that's one of the many reasons why we're trying to, why we're investing so much effort and time to try to avoid them. So, of course, we are talking to different countries about these sweeping and harmful tariffs being announced by the US, because they do damage to everyone. So that's all I can say in response to that question. And for the second one, I would ask you to clarify what you're referring to, please.
Well, the second one was exactly on these consequences on global trade and possible influx of global trade to the European Union as a consequence of the US tariffs. So, what kind of safeguards are you going to take? How much time will this take to react to global trade flows? Yes.
Thanks for that question, but that's purely hypothetical, purely speculative. We don't know what the impact on global trade flows will be. We don't know at this point. We don't know what the full range of US measures might be yet, and therefore we don't know. We can't make any kind of detailed assessment about what their impact might be in the EU, or the secondary effect of how it might impact on trade flows around the world and into the EU. So it's simply not possible to answer that question at the moment.
Okay, yeah, last one and then.
Sorry, but it's quite obvious now. If the Chinese can sell less cars to the US, they will try to sell more to the European Union. So will the European Union take safeguard measures not to have a dumping effect?
The European Union will take all necessary steps to protect our common market, our industries and our companies. And when additional steps are required of whatever nature to achieve that goal, we will talk to you about them. But now is not that time.
I will now give the floor to Lara, who has raised her hand already for some time. I think it's also for Olof, Lara.
Yes, it's on tariffs. Thank you very much. Lara Wiedeking, ZDF German Television. I was wondering, maybe I missed this, but we already spoke about Commissioner Šefčovič being in D.C. I was wondering, how were the talks, and when did the Commissioner learn about the new U.S. tariffs?
I have nothing to add concerning the Commissioner's meetings in Washington, D.C. beyond what he himself posted on social media. And I don't know the answer to your second question, at what point he was aware of any new US measures. He's currently in China, so I can't ask him. But if I can find out more information, I'll come back to you.
Sorry, I forgot to say that when you connect through Interactio, it's important that you switch on your camera, so that helps also the interpreters with their job. So don't forget to switch on your camera. Yes, go ahead.
Emmanuel Biretta du Point. Bonjour, merci. Justement, je rebondis parce que le commissaire Šefčovič est en Chine. Est-ce qu'on peut attendre quelque chose de ce voyage, un agenda positif, comme on dit, d'autant plus que nous avons signé avec la Chine un accord d'investissement que nous avons dû suspendre pour des raisons politiques, mais est-ce le moment de le remettre à flot et de passer l'éponge sur les problèmes que nous avions eus à l'époque?
Merci pour ta question. Le commissaire Šefčovič est en Chine justement pour avoir son premier dialogue avec ses homologues chinois. C'est sa première mission tant que commissaire de commerce et sécurité économique. Il veut adresser tous les défis, toutes les opportunités dans notre relation commerce. Et il y a dans ça, il y a certaines priorités où l'Union européenne veut voir du progrès. Et là, on parle de réciprocité, transparence, accès au marché plus stable et plus juste pour nos entreprises. Et c'est tout ce que je peux dire en ce moment-là.
Guys, I think I'm going to stop the topic now. I will take new topics. Yes, go ahead, because we only had 2 topics for now. Yeah.
Thank you. Razia Akoch. I'm asking this question because I really need something on camera. It's about daylight saving time. It's I'm really sorry, guys. It's a subject that has been kind of stuck at the council level for a long time, but there have been the Poles are quite interested in it, and Lithuania has mentioned it for 2027. I would just like to have anything that you can say about the subject and whether it's, there was a report that I know has been dismissed about scrapping it. Thank you.
I had to reply to my previous job, and I'm very happy that now Anna Kaiser will handle this.
No, you didn't have to. You had the pleasure twice a year, and we are headed fast to the next important moment of switching the clocks again. So, yes, a short history of this exercise. We made the proposal in 2018 to end the seasonal clock changes. It was done in September 2018, and it has pretty much been stuck in the Council since. And we decided at the time, the Commission decided at the time, that it's based on the feedback that we got from Member States, from European Parliament, from various kinds of stakeholders, studies, academics, etc. We decided that this is best to be left to Member States to decide amongst themselves. And we still believe today that a coordinated solution is achievable. And we do encourage renewed discussions under the current Polish presidency to find a solution. But we do believe that it is best that the Member States decide amongst themselves.
Thank you very much. You will have another opportunity to raise this question 6 months from now. Okay. On this, I guess we have no further questions. David.
Thank you. On migration, if I may, and the Polish announcement that the law on emergency will start to apply, so the right to present a request for asylum will be suspended. I would like to know what is the reaction of the Commission. And if this is in line with the European law. Thank you.
Thank you. Markus.
Thank you very much for the question. The Commission is aware of the latest developments in Poland regarding this new law. We are in close contact with the Polish authorities to assess its provisions. We will continue this dialogue also concerning the implementation of this law. And more generally, when it comes to Poland, it is crucial to recall the current context. There are hybrid threats arising from the weaponization of migration by Russia, assisted by Belarus. These pose a risk to sovereignty, national security, and the territorial integrity of Poland, and also to the Union as a whole. The communication presented by the Commission in December 2024 provides the legal context in which any exceptional measures to tackle this threat can be taken. All measures need to be temporary, necessary, proportionate, and well-defined.
David.
Thank you, Markus. According to Frontex data figures, in the first 2 months of this year, 692 migrants crossed irregularly the border between Belarus and Poland and Lithuania. Most of them were from two nationalities different from the usual nationalities of the hybrid war, so Ukrainians and Russians. Do you think that it's proportionate to activate this emergency law, because it's a law adopted for an emergency situation, for 692 people, mainly Ukrainians and Russians, that are crossing the border with Poland? Thank you.
Thanks very much for the follow-up, David. As I've said, we are in close contact with the Polish authorities to assess the provisions of this law, and we will continue the dialogue also concerning the implementation of the law.
So you understand how to have take a look at the law. The criteria have just been explained, and this is what we will do, of course. Any other questions on this? Raise your hand. No, these colleagues for another question. Then I take a new topic. Yes.
Hello, Stefan. I want to ask about the sanctions on Russia, because we saw 2 days ago that the Kremlin put out a new demand in order to restore the Black Sea Initiative. They asked for the Russian Agricultural Bank and other financial entities in the agribusiness sector to be reconnected to SWIFT in order to restore the initiative. We know that SWIFT falls under EU jurisdiction. So what's your response to that? Do you accept or do you reject this demand from the Kremlin? And are you in touch already with the White House in order to examine this demand? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anita will come and then I think you will join.
Thank you, Jorge, for the question. I will let Olaf come in on the specificities, but what I think is important is that we recall the whole context and why we have imposed sanctions on Russia. So these sanctions have been imposed in the context of Russia's war of aggression against Ukraine and the end of Russia's unprovoked and unjustified aggression in Ukraine and unconditional withdrawal of all Russian military forces from the entire territory of Ukraine would be one of the main preconditions to amend or lift sanctions. And Russia must demonstrate genuine political will to end its illegal and unprovoked war of aggression. So this is what we have on our side. Any peace deal and any discussions on this must lead to a just and long-lasting peace for Ukraine. It must be sustainable. And then when it comes to any type of sanctions, I will let my colleague Olaf to come in and join.
Thank you.
So just to complement what Anita said, and to remind what we're talking about here. So the EU has imposed bans to Russian and Belarusian banks. They're not able to use the SWIFT international payment system. Why? Because this curtails their capacity to finance their illegal war of aggression. Simply put, this means that banks can neither obtain foreign currency nor transfer assets abroad. This has negative consequences for the Russian and Belarusian economies, because if they wish to carry out these transactions, they have to pay more. And just as a concluding point, and to complement what my colleague Anita said, we often hear spin from Russia that our sanctions and our other steps aren't having any impact on their economy. Strange then that they now are trying to get us to roll back on them. So with that, I think we've covered all the points.
Thank you. You have a follow-up? Yeah.
Yes, thank you. It's more about follow-up for Anita. You spoke about the withdrawal of Russian troops as the condition for sanctions relief, but the White House has another approach. They're open to partial sanctions relief as the negotiations continue. So just to be fully clear, you're rejecting this demand, this specific demand from the Kremlin about the SWIFT about reconnecting to SWIFT, even if the negotiations continue, even as a new phase in the negotiations, you will reject this demand until the complete withdrawal of Russian troops from the territory of Ukraine. Yes or no? And second, has the White House already asked you to amend the sanctions regime in order to allow this SWIFT recognition? Thank you.
Thank you. I would like to give 2 dimensions to your answer, one political, one legal. So on the political side, what we are aiming at is maximizing the pressure on Russia. So this is number one, and this is why we're using all our tools at our disposal. That's why we have 16 sanction packages. That's why we're working on another one, and this is why we are enhancing all the support in terms of military ammunition and air defense for Ukraine. This is not about, or let me put it differently, this is about wanting a just and durable peace. Ukraine wants this more than anyone. This is also what the EU wants, and this is what we are there to do. So we are supporting all the negotiations that lead to this effect. And on the second part, on the legal part, on sanctions, this is something that will have to be done in unanimity by the Council.
Thank you. Any other questions on this topic, on sanctions? Raise your hand if it's on sanctions. I don't see in the room. Noradin had another question, I think. Sorry? On sanctions? No. Okay. Maybe any other topic for Anita? Yeah. And then.
Thank you. Antoine Muto for Japanese TVN HK. What is, please, the Commission's reaction to the adoption by the Armenian Parliament of a bill on starting negotiations for EU membership, which is obviously a country's move away from Russia? And would you have some details as well on the potential next steps? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's take it with the first step, so one step at a time. And the first step has been made by the Armenian Parliament yesterday, and the vote of the Parliament shows the attractiveness of the EU. We are a project of peace, of prosperity, and of values. And in terms of our relations with Armenia, we have never been closer in our relations, and we are further strengthening our relations from both mobility, sectoral cooperation, and security.
Thank you. You have a follow-up?
This is kind of good news for the Commission, and since there were other countries where it was kind of difficult in the past few months on the same kind of on the same topic, and what do you expect from the next coming weeks?
I think just the very fact that to join the EU, unlike others that want to run from other projects, shows it all.
Yes, couldn't agree more. Yes, on Armenia. No, on Armenia. Then I take another topic. Yep.
Thank you, Magnus with Euractiv. Anita, on Tuesday, Danish Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen said that the quote, unacceptable pressure on Greenland and Denmark obviously being an EU country. Does the Commission share that assessment?
Thank you. It will not be for the Commission to comment on any visits that you are alluding to. What we can do is reiterate once more our strong position of commitment and full support the EU will continue to uphold the principles of national sovereignty and territorial integrity, and more so when it comes to the territorial integrity of an EU member state.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you for that. Territorial integrity and sovereignty are both things you've mentioned before. The Greenlandic Premier called a few days. Does the EU fusion refuse to accommodate their ask?
I think your line has always been extremely clear. What Anita has just said. For us, it's absolutely crucial to uphold the principles of national sovereignty, of territorial integrity, and the inviolability of borders. This is something we have consistently been saying. I don't think there is anything new there. Anita, if you would like to come in.
Diplomatic talk.
On Greenland? No. I think you had another question.
Merci Stéphane. J'ai deux questions, si tu permets, pour Anouar. La première, c'est sur Gaza. Le génocide qui continue par segment de la population palestinienne. Nous avons suivi ces deux des manifestations à Gaza. Ma question, c'est, avez-vous, étant donné que vous avez des observateurs pas loin, observateurs de Rafah, si ces manifestations étaient spontanées parce que la population tout simplement en a marre, elle ne pouvait plus supporter par l'un ou l'autre acteur sur le terrain, très complexe en Cisjordanie, où le camp de Jenin est complètement détruit et la population n'est même pas autorisée à retourner au camp de réfugiés, puis leurs maisons détruites. Par ailleurs, l'extension des colonies, une douzaine de nouvelles colonies ou de spots, de nouvelles constructions, vraiment complexe, agressif par ni les paysans, ni même les intellectuels. Il y a tout simplement un auteur d'un film. Est-ce que vous avez un commentaire et vous avez surtout ce sont les actions que les Palestiniens attendent de vous?
Merci Nourdine pour la question. Je pense qu'il va falloir rentrer dans les différentes dimensions que tu as soulevées. Sur l'angle des manifestations, l'Union européenne prend note, qui se déroule aujourd'hui dans toute la bande de Gaza, le droit des Gazaouis à manifester pacifiquement dans le but de façonner un avenir meilleur pour eux-mêmes. Nous avons déjà déclaré qu'il ne devait pas y avoir de rôle futur Hamas dans la gouvernance de Gaza, et c'est assez clair. Les Palestiniens et les Israéliens ont énormément souffert au cours de l'année et demie écoulée, et il est temps de briser de la violence. Maintenant, de la situation en Cisjordanie. Et là, elle a été elle-même très claire sur le terrain lors de la visite qu'elle a pu effectuer lundi dernier, dans le sens que l'Union européenne constate que les opérations militaires israéliennes provoquent davantage de déplacements et de destruction. La violence des colons et les nouvelles colonies en cours de construction compromettent la perspective d'une solution fondée sur la coexistence de deux États, alors que cette solution, la solution, s'agit de la seule voie de paix durable. Concernant la décision à laquelle tu t'es référé, à savoir la décision du cabinet de sécurité israélien de reconnaître 13 colonies en Cisjordanie comme des colonies indépendantes, notre position est que cette décision est un pas dans la mauvaise direction. La poursuite de l'expansion des colonies en Cisjordanie occupée menace la viabilité de la solution à deux États. Et permets-moi de rajouter que compris par l'Union européenne de mettre en œuvre la résolution 2334 du Conseil de sécurité des Nations unies, et rappelant que les colonies de peuplement, 1, sont illégales au regard du droit international, 2, constituent un obstacle à la paix, et 3, menacent de rendre impossible la solution à deux États, que l'Union européenne réaffirme qu'elle est fermement opposée à la politique de colonisation d'Israël et aux mesures prises dans ce contexte. Et finalement, je vais rappeler que dans son avis consultatif du 19 La Cour internationale de justice avait conclu, entre autres, que l'État d'Israël était tenu de cesser immédiatement toute nouvelle activité de colonisation et d'évacuer tous les colons du territoire palestinien occupé. Merci.
Merci beaucoup. Thank you very much. Any other questions on this topic for Anwar? Any other questions for Anwar in general? Anwar? Yep.
Anwar, thank you. I have a question on the Horn of Africa because tensions are rising. Today we have very negative reports about heat exchange between Tigray and President Abiy Ahmed. So there are fears of restarting war and non-respect of Pretoria Agreement. And my question to you is, are there any actions of the EU diplomacy to help to maintain peace is first question, to calm these tensions, which are absolutely scary. And the second question is about the food shortages for Tigray camps for refugees and displaced people, because as we all know, there is no more American food deliveries, so there are million people of food risks. Is the European Union going to step in to help to deliver food to these people in acute need?
Thanks much. Allow me to look into this front and revert back to you as soon as I can in the course of the afternoon.
All right, thank you. Yeah.
Anwar, I prefer to come tomorrow to have it on camera because it's important for people to hear your answer. Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you very much. And with this, I'm going to end the press briefing. We have spoken for more than an hour. So I know there's still questions. Those that still have questions, do not hesitate to reach out to us. We are there for you. In the meantime, I wish you all a very nice afternoon. Thank you.